What's up, guys? Dog Polk here, and welcome back to another episode of Poker Ants. And today we're going to be taking a look at another hand from the Triton High Roller Cash game that we've been covering for the last couple of days. This hand featured a monster pot for over $500,000 between our two opponents. But before we jump into it, I want to let you guys know that I've been posting a lot of content here lately. And I'm going to be posting every day at 11 a.m. In fact, I'm setting up the premiere feature, going to test it out for a week and see if I like it or not. So what that means for you is just be here at 11 a.m. Pacific time every day, and you'll get a new video. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's go ahead and jump into the action.
All range of emotion, you know.
It's cute. It's like a sign of vulnerability. I like it.
So Romain's got pocket queens, gonna open undergun. Rob Young's got pocket deuces, gonna try set mine in position. JRB's got pocket nines, he's gonna make the call. So we're gonna have four-way, 2 to flop, 24,000.
Our hand begins at 1 million, 2 million Korean won blinds, and the action's under the gun with Romain looking down at pocket queens. He does decide to open to 6 million, that's been the standard in this game. Now the action folds over to Rob Young, who looks down at pocket twos. And this is an interesting spot with pocket twos. Typically, if there were no antes and you were in the hijack facing an open, I think letting twos go some of the time would be a pretty reasonable decision. The ante in the from the big blind does make it a bit closer, but there is another thing that we need to think about in this spot, which is as stacks get really deep, the value of some of these low pairs goes down. And the reason is that sometimes you end up having set over set, and that costs you a lot of money. Now, I still think this decision is close. I'd probably lean a little bit more towards a fold, but I don't mind a call every now and then. Now over to the button, JRB looks down at pocket nines, and I like mixing it up here between both decisions. I like sometimes calling and sometimes raising, although I do lean a little bit more towards raising here. You're definitely ahead of both these players' ranges. You knock out the blinds by re-raising here. You are in position. You have a lot of stack depth, so even if they do decide to call or 4-bet you have some playability. So I think I typically lean a little bit more towards a re-raise here, but calling's certainly profitable as well. You can't go wrong with either option. JRB decides to take the passive option and go for the call, and then the action folds to the big blind, looks down at ace-6 offsuit. You know, facing a 3x here with an ante and this many players, you probably just have to call, but you're not too thrilled about it. Without an ante, you might even be able to get behind a fold. I know it's pretty tight in the big blind when you have an offsuit ace, but you have a hand that's going to be fairly dominated by each player. Not that great of playability. I don't know, it's close either way, but I certainly don't mind taking a flop with an ante in play. So with 4 players in the hand, let's take a flop.
You put in a short deck while you're out here?
Wow. That is set over set, and Romain's got an overpair. Romain is the one betting.
Lost, I think 5.
Trying to charge some draws. Rob Young's got bottom set. He's gonna slow play it.
And then the second bullet.
JRB slow plays as well.
Played one hand.
The flop provides about as much action as you could possibly hope for. Romain flops an overpair with his pocket queens. Rob Young improves to 3 of a kind, but is drawing almost dead to pocket nines, who's improved to 3 of a kind as well. The big blind checks. Now Romain has to decide what he wants to do, and I typically lean towards a bet in this situation. Your queens are still very likely to be good, and there are a lot of hands that could call and give you some value. Flush draws, straight draws, hands with a 10 or 9 in them. These are all hands that could be in your opponent's range that decide to call, and there aren't that many sets compared to those holdings. Romain does decide to go ahead and bet 15 million. Now over to Rob Young, and I think he mainly needs to raise here. Look, I don't mind trapping every now and then, but this is the golden rule I talk about on the channel. When you have good hands, you should mainly bet and raise and only trap every now and then. And that's really the case here as well. I think Rob should mainly be looking to raise, but I don't mind throwing in a call every now and then. Here's the issue with calling with this hand. There are going to be a lot of turns that are going to get kind of ugly for deuces. What are you going to do on an 8 where Queen Jack makes a straight now? What are you going to do on a diamond where all the flushes get in? What are you going to do on a Jack where now King Queen? You know, there are a lot of turns that a hand as strong as deuces Can still put bets in, obviously, but is not thrilled to see this run out. So I typically lean more towards a raise, knock some of the weaker draws out of the pot, define your opponent's range, and get value from both players. Also, there could be some hands he wants to make a move with here. Maybe he has a hand like King Jack or Queen Jack or a flush draw, and he wants to make a move and raise and try and get his opponent off of a hand like Queens. This is a nice way to balance out that play. Anyway, Yang does decide to call, and now the action's over to JRB. And this is a slam dunk mandatory raise spot. There's no option. There's too much money in this pot. You have a very, very strong hand, plenty of hands to pay you off. There are draws all over the place. There's simply no option here other than to raise. JRB makes the call, the big blind folds, and let's take a turn.
See the turn card. Turn card's a 3. It's still blank.
Two hands.
Romai's got the overpair. When he sees two people just call him, he's got to think he's got the best hand. Usually he's up against like 10 Jack, Queen Jack, King Jack, these types of hands. So he bets 55 million.
I was supposed to leave, but I might stay.
Rob Jan's got bottom set. And the way he's played the hand, he's going to think he's got the best of it. Trying to decide if he should raise or just call here.
Come on.
He is going to shove. JRB's got middle set.
The turn comes the 3 of spades, creating a backdoor flush draw, meaning even more draws are on board. But there's no reason for Romain to be scared here with his pocket queens. It's extremely unlikely that he's beat from either player. Neither player has improved to a hand that beats him on this turn, basically ever. 3s and 3-2 suited shouldn't be hands they have here at all. And then they shouldn't be slow playing the flop that much either. Maybe Rob every now and then, but JRB shouldn't have hands that have him beat often at all. So in this situation with queens, you gotta keep betting. I know that it's deep, I know that it's a lot of money, but you're just simply too likely to be good here with your pocket queens. You need to bet and get some value against two players that can be drawing. Romain does decide to go for a big healthy bet of 55 million here in the turn, a sizable portion of chips. Now over to Rob Yang. Is he going to consider calling again? You know, you trap the flop. Now what do we think on the turn? It is a turn where you don't represent a lot of hands with a raise, so you shouldn't be looking to raise too often at all. Really, if Rob raises the turn, he's saying that he probably trapped the flop, but doesn't have too many hands in that range. Because of this, he shouldn't be looking to raise this turn much with most of his hands, and he should mainly lean towards a call. Now, I still do like a raise. In fact, if you did trap the flop, I mainly like raising the turn, but you're going to have to be very specific if you want to throw in some bluffs. Maybe you could throw in a hand like occasionally Queen Jack, or once in a while some kind of flush draw. But you've got to be careful you don't do this too much, and that you balance out both value bets and bluffs with a raise. You might be asking yourself, Doug, why do you care if he has bluffs or not? Well, the thing is, if Rob will only raise here when he has a set, then his opponents can just fold everything unless they have him beat. And if they do that, then he's going to lose a lot of money with his strategy. So we're all about creating good, well-rounded strategies here in the channel, and that's why my advice is to try and mix those things together. Rob does decide to go ahead and raise all in here on the turn, a huge raise. I think I'd prefer to see him make it something a little more like 120 or so. I think that might give him a little more playability. Maybe he could throw in a couple bluffs every now and then. But with this size, he can still find a few bluffs for sure, but he risks so much. The pre-flop raiser can have overpairs as well as sets. Maybe every now and then JRB has something behind. It's just such a large bet that when he does get called, he's going to have to be kind of worried. And because of that, I typically lean towards using smaller sizes. Now remember, this all-in's still making a lot of money. He's certainly ahead of both players a ton of the time. The pot's already pretty big. So I'm not saying this is a losing play. It's not. It's a winning one. I just think you might have some slightly better options at your disposal. Anyway, from here, the options get pretty easy. Will JRB call with the second nuts? Will queens get out of the way against what is clearly two extremely strong hands? I guess let's find out.
Gonna go nowhere. Only loses to pocket tens. He's gonna make the call.
Oh, we got a pot started.
Romain pocket queens. So much money in front of him. He's gonna lay it down. Rob Jan's got one out.
What's that?
Yeah. Wait.
What's that?
Set.
We can play the short stack.
If Robl hadn't taken all my money, I could have won a big pot from him. There's no
Wow.
Over $500,000.
You have to run into me when I'm short
I feel
stack.
lucky. I feel lucky, you know.
You're so lucky. You got to run into me when I'm short stack, Rob. Unbelievable. Man, you run so good.
I feel lucky.
And let me end here on a little piece of advice. When you win a huge pot off someone, nobody cares how bad you've been running or how lucky they got to not lose more.
Every single time. And by the way, he's had the best of me. He's winning a lot, and I'm losing a shit ton this week.
Nobody.
I mean, don't you feel like blessed that I was short stacked? Robl killed me all my money.
Nobody cares at all.
Don't you feel blessed I was short stacked on that?
Thank you for joining me here today for Poker Hands. Remember to subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you guys tomorrow at 11 a.m. Pacific time. Peace.